Live from New York, it's Ask an Engineer.
Hey everybody, and welcome to your Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Ask Engineer. It's me, Ladyada, the engineer with me, Mr. Ladyada on camera control. We're broadcasting live from downtown Manhattan. That's why you hear all the honking, because it's honking outside, because it's New York City. People driving around honking, because it's nice out. And but besides that, we've got an exciting show for you tonight. Thank you. Yes, they agree. We've got all sorts of products and projects and videos. We've got a good rant from Mr. Ladyada. We've got some.
It's not a rant. It's how to get things better for more people who want to do open source.
We've got Phil's TED
But
Talk.
it's like a little bit of a rant.
Little rant. And videos and more. I got like an hour plus of good content, good quality content with no commercial. So let's get right back into the show. What's on tonight's show, Mr. Ladyada?
On tonight's show, we'll be talking about shipping smart and safe, also some changes ahead. These are all good changes. We ended our 100 days of masking, free masks. We also have some updates about the company. We also have some updates about us. We're double vaccinated now, all sorts of things. We'll talk about that. And this all goes along with our team. Thank you so much, everybody, for supporting us over the last year and the last decade. This is some of our team pre-COVID. We are looking forward to very soon taking a other photo of us outside or inside together, because more of us are able to go together in the same spot. So talk about some Adafruit stuff and more. Show and tell people around the world, sharing their projects. Adafruit does this every single week. Ladyada will talk about who was on the show and tell and what they shared. Time travel, look around, makers, hackers, artists, engineers, all sorts of world news and more. Help wanted, jobs from the jobs board, jobs.adafruit.com. You can post your skills, or you could apply for a job. Bring back the economy. CircuitPython news and more. This is what we do every single week when we talk about Python on hardware. 3D printing, got to speed up from Noah and Pedro. Everybody's favorite segment, DigiKey and Adafruit present Ion MPI. This week it's from Bosch. We got new products, we got top secret, we're going to answer your questions. We do that at the end of the show, so save your questions for the end of the show. Join all 28 or 29,000 of us on Discord, adafruit.it/Discord, and we'll do questions at the end. All your engineering questions, business questions, open source questions, and more. All that on Ask an Engineer.
That's right.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with a little bit of a somber note, but it's an important thing. Dan Kaminsky passed away, 42, really young, really sad. And if you're in the internet world or the security industry, Dan is known for plugging a hole in maybe one of the biggest issues with DNS and maybe saving us all being able to use the internet. One of the things he has said is like, look, the internet was designed to ship pictures of cats around. Wasn't meant to really have the trillions of dollars flow through it every day.
Yeah.
But some of us are going to go and fix it. I'm paraphrasing. And Dan also is known for finding the Sony rootkit and making sure, I think it was like 580,000 computers were compromised, but that got fixed. And so he's a very helpful person, and a lot of people know about his work that he's done in security. But the thing that people know about him the most, which is a little surprising because he's from the security world, not really associated with people being nice and empathy and everything, is how much of a nice person he was and how many people he helped out.
He was very, very kind.
Very kind.
He's kind. I hate to, it sounds really weird to say, but he didn't hate women, and like I could really tell.
Here's the thing.
Most people did.
In the New York Times write-up, they said, on Twitter, the misogynistic world of infotech, like all these things, he was one of the few voices that showed you didn't have to be a jerk and be successful and be helpful in the security, the OPSEC world and everything. So I knew him from like maker world because he was a maker. I think he was like working on quantum computers not too long ago.
Yeah.
And he also worked on things that people didn't know about. So someone was colorblind and he made like, I think it was called Dan Cam, and it was this thing that he could.
I think he was also colorblind, maybe. I don't know.
I think it was a friend. He made it for a friend.
Yeah.
And then I think like his aunt was doing something, it was something for like patients in another country. I think it was actually dealing with people who have AIDS and like helped out with how to get this online system going. So you just see these personal stories over and over and over and over again about how Dan helped people. So it wasn't the security stuff. It was the personal impact he had on so many people's lives. Help people get to conferences, all sorts of stuff. So I wanted to read one of the things he said in 2020. And he said, at the end of the day, I'm old, I'm tired, I'm tapping thoughts into face-based keyboard, hoping I can do a thing or two for the next nerd full of silly magical ideas, hoping you will too. So, in memory of Dan, maybe think about this. Maybe we can all be a little bit more like Dan. I think the world will be a better place. And thank you, Dan, for all the things that you did while you were here. I wish we had more time.
Here's a good one.
Okay, next up. We want to set a good example.
Yes.
And so one of the things we did was we got our second shot, and we put our vaccine cards in our little Fifth Element multipass thing.
Yeah.
And at Krispy Kreme, you get a free donut.
Free donut.
And so we went to Krispy Kreme, and technically you can get a free donut every day. And by the way,
I don't think it's such a good idea.
don't worry if you don't get vaccinated. They say come on Mondays. So, but maybe consider get vaccinated.
But, it's a treat.
Yeah. So one of the things that's changed for us, and this goes into our shipping safely thing, is you'll notice soon the little Adafruit logo doesn't have a mask on anymore.
Because it's getting vaccinated too.
It's not because we didn't. We don't wear masks. It's because we're just finished up with our 100 days of masking. We paralleled the government, and we wanted everyone to try to wear a mask, so we put it in all the orders and donated more masks and did more. But the thing that's changing for us is on Friday, Ladyada and myself got our second dose. And so, 14 days after you're fully vaccinated. And we're also at the point at the company where a lot of us are now fully vaccinated second dose. So what it means is we've been keeping ourselves on different floors, limited shifts, limited people.
Yeah.
Not having, and we're always in masks, always with gloves. We
Safe.
didn't have any outbreaks. And we've been operating this way, but now we can finally start to see things like on the way to the office. A lot of us now don't wear a mask if we're just walking on the street because it's outdoors.
CDC says if you're outdoors,
Yeah.
vaccinated.
And so I know that there's this idea that's like, some people want it to be like this forever. No, we don't.
I don't.
We got vaccinated. We got donuts to prove it. And so the next few weeks, more of us are fully vaccinated. That means more of us can do more meetings closer to each other. We can allow each other to take a different look at shifts. We can meet outside together. There's all sorts of things. And so as someone who's been in this from the beginning, New York City, we got hit the first, the worst. In the U.S., we made face shields for the city. We made electronics for the medical world who wanted them because they couldn't get them. We've been trying to crawl back out of this, just like everybody else. And so this is a really good brick in that path towards getting back to recovery and restarting. In the last week, we've hired 4 people or about to. We've gotten the most resumes in. And so far for the last 5 months, we've been growing month over month and year over year, of course, but we're also looking at our 2019. So if you're wondering what all the things that we did together, from our community to our customers to our team, did it work out? Yeah, we're here. We didn't have to go into debt. We didn't have to furlough the company. So thank you. But that is our Adafruit update for this week. Okay, next up.
All the news you can fruit.
That's right. Please continue to order stuff. That is what's been keeping us going. When you order stuff, you don't get the free mask anymore, but you do get the following.
Yes, we still have freebies. We have $99 or more, a free Promo Proto half-size breadboard. $149 or more, you get a free STEM QT board. We have a whole bunch of sensors we're adding as other ones go out of stock. $199 or more, you get free UPS ground shipping in the continental United States. And $299 or more, you get a free Circuit Playground Express or all-in-one development board. Go on CircuitPython or Arduino or Code.org CS Discoveries, Rust, or all other sorts of languages. And you don't need to do any soldering. You can get started immediately because everything's built in. How wonderful.
All right. Next up, I have a service announcement. So you notice a little thing on top of our site. It says, due to high demand, expect some shipping delays. At this time, orders may not ship for 1 to 2 business days. Okay. So why are we doing this? The reason we're doing this is because we have so many orders right now because a lot of the world is turning back on. We have a lot of stuff. And we planned well for the chip shortages and the restart of the economy in lots of places. So we also are hiring more people, and we want to give our team time and space to train our new folks that are coming in. Mm-hmm. So when you order, just make sure you know it might not ship instantly, same minute that we do with a lot of orders, because we want to give our teams time, but we also have a huge, ginormous number of orders, which is really good. Thank you. A lot of it, a little surprising, maybe, is industry where they can't get the stuff they need, and they don't want to risk trying to get it from elsewhere. And Adafruit has it. If it says it in stock, if it says it's in stock, it's in stock. So we actually have it. And when they place an order, they know it's going to ship. You could tell there's a lot of businesses that are coming back, and there's a lot of new businesses that are starting. So, the Adafruit News Network
Beep, 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 beep.
and ANN, it's looking pretty good, but we're definitely in a restart. So just give us a little bit of time when we ship your orders. Okay, show and tell, people around the world, show and sharing projects. Ladyada.
That's right. We had some folks coming by.
Who was on the show and tell?
All right, from DigiKey, David Sandys came by. Usually it's Kevin, but David is filling in for Kevin while he's on break, which is well deserved. And David showed off the Innovation Notebook, which is I think it's like a hard or soft bound book with lots of diagrams and parts and schematics, symbols, and calculators and other helpers. Kind of inspired from the Maker Notebook, but this one's more electronics focused. And it's going to be coming out soon, so we previewed it, and we're going to hopefully get one. We'll show it off. And they're going to be, doing giveaways, and they're going to have it available at the Adafruit, in the DigiKey store, of course, and we'll also have it in the Adafruit shop, I'm sure. So check it out if you want to see a preview. And if you hold tight, I think we'll get some into the shop, and then maybe we can also have the PDF available for people to check out ahead of time. So I think that's all going to be coming, but this was like a preview.
Yep.
And next up we had Chris Young come by. Chris Young wrote a guide on Learn last week. It went live. It's how to turn a Raspberry Pi Zero plus Cutie Pie into a smart IoT IR remote. I do remember, mentioning that, reading that for a lot of accessibility projects, the one thing that people who have accessibility needs figure out real fast is how to use the internet, because it's like the most useful thing to learn. And so anything that uses a web page or a web browser will be really easy to use for accessibility tools, because it's already designed to browse the internet. So I thought this was a really neat thing. It's basically a web browser that sends infrared codes. Charlene has been making cool LED rings. She showed off 3 beautiful LED rings. They're like circuit sculptures you can wear. Liz always wanted to make a guitar pedal, and she's now getting into it. She made a breadboarded fuzz pedal. Belle is from New Hampshire and made a Trinkey powered password safe. And then from Adafruit, we had JP come by. He's done a funhouse project with a PIR sensor that can turn on and off a Lifix Wi-Fi bulb, and also made a Trinkey camera shutter. Gnome Pager showed off this week's guide, which is a 6-segmented lemon or citrus keyboard pad. It's a macro pad that is lemon or grapefruit or yuzu shaped, I guess. And Scott has been on a tear. He's been merging CircuitPython back into older versions of MicroPython into CircuitPython. I think originally based CircuitPython on 10.9 version of MicroPython, or we've gotten up to that. But since then, 3 or 4 more revisions have come out, improvements to the core language, and so he's, every few days he's been merging in one release cycle of MicroPython in. So that'll get us things like the Walrus operator, more async IO support, some code execution speed improvements, some code size improvements. A lot of bug fixes from mainline. We're going to catch up and hopefully get to 1.15 soon.
And if you want to see how all this is made, catch Scott's deep dives on Friday, because this is I was trying to give the analogy. It's like there's like Linux, but then there's all the different flavors of Linux.
Yeah, there's distributions, and you have to have the kernel updated.
And you want to make sure, and you want to make
modules fit.
Yeah, and there's a lot of folks that like CircuitPython because of all the device support, but they also they might want something that's in MicroPython that we don't have, because it's not exactly
it's true. It's like
merged in
OpenWRT is like still running like the kernel 2, right?
Yeah.
It would be great if they updated to like the latest version of the kernel, but somebody has to do the work to make sure that that it all still fits in memory and it has the same functionality, and all the kernel configuration modules are updated. And it's not easy. It takes work, and so that's what we're doing now. Is we're catching up to 2 or 3 years worth of MicroPython.
We show all of our work. So if you wanted to learn about how Linux works and kernels and all, it's actually really hard, and there's years, and there's so many systems and tools and things. This is a good time to learn about that real time and even participate. So if you're interested in stuff like this, especially if you're into scripting languages on microcontrollers, or if you're just into Python, this is really neat to see.
Yeah.
Okay. It's part of our Adafruit live series of shows. It's Wednesday, so that means on Wednesday we do Ask an Engineer
That's
at
right.
8 p.m. You're watching it now.
We're here.
And then we also do Show and Tell, 7:30. We just did that. And those are our 2 Wednesday shows.
Yes.
On Sunday we do Desk of Ladyada.
That's right. I did that.
And this week on Desk of Ladyada, Lamar talked about and showed all sorts of things with cameras.
Cameras. Yeah, we've been adding camera support to CircuitPython, so showing 2 examples, one with an RP2040 running CircuitPython, one with a SAM51 running Python. It's kind of neat to have sensor input into, we have sensors of all sorts. We have like temperature sensors and motion sensors and humidity sensors, but camera sensors are complicated. They're not easy to implement. So I'm working with the folks, the engineering team. How do we make it really easy to add cameras and vision recognition into projects? It's very powerful, but it's like really tough to use.
Don't we have the great search?
Where in the world is that part I need? The great search with DigiKey.
And this is where Lamar uses all of our powers of good to use the DigiKey site to find what you're looking for, and you'll need to do that because there's a worldwide shortage. So relays.
Yes, somebody posted on the forums and said, hey, can you make a feather wing with a latching relay? And I was like, I don't know. I should find out. And I went to DigiKey, and then I realized, we should do a video about this because relays come in all sorts of different sizes, all sorts of specifications, and there's a lot of little tricks to picking out a relay. I've definitely learned from my errors. So I teach you all of my I relay my relay knowledge to you in this video.
Okay, on Tuesdays, we do JP's product pick of the week, Trinkey, your best friend, it's true. And on Tuesday, JP's product pick is broadcasting live from the product pages, something that no one does, except for the place where we got this idea from, which was Taobao and Alibaba, where they do live broadcasts inside product pages.
Yeah, it's like 1 billion people. But other than that, nobody knows about this.
Besides that. And so, and then Amazon was trying to do it. They bought Twitch, and they still have some things, but I think we're the only electronics company that does it. So it's cool.
Yeah.
So we have it on sale, but you have to watch it live. That's the thing that's making live special. So here is the recap. But tune in every Tuesday, JP's product pick, and pick up something at a good price.
It's the Trinkey. It's a USB key, 4 NeoPixels. It runs CircuitPython. It runs Arduino. It is your best friend. It is a keychain. And it's a whole bunch more. This is an iPad, and then you'll see here I'm using a long USB extension cable, and then I'm going into one of these little adapters that goes from Lightning to USB. And then I have my Trinkey plugged in there. This is currently set up to act as volume up. Really one thing to do with the Apple system camera, and that's take a picture by holding down the volume up or volume down. They both work. You can see in here when I take that picture. Takes that picture, very nice. Let's wave everyone. It is the brand new Trinkey, your best friend and mine.
Okay, JP's workshop is tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're starting to do a series called CircuitPython Parsecs. Parsecs, get it?
Parsecs.
Yeah.
Parsecs, okay.
There's all sorts of, it's funny in all sorts of ways. So it's a little short CircuitPython. So we had Make Code Minute, now we have CircuitPython Parsecs.
Okay.
So take it away, JP. See you on the other
So
side.
for today's CircuitPython Parsec, what I wanted to show is a little tip on finding out some info about your board from the REPL or from the serial interface to your microcontrollers. So I've got a Feather RP2040. It's plugged in over USB to this computer. And inside of Mu, you can open up this serial window. So this is now a direct connection, a REPL. I can type things in directly on that board. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import OS. So I've imported that library of operating system-like things. So what I wanted to do is find out what board I have plugged in. And you might ask, why do you want to do that? I've got it sitting right here. Well, I actually have multiple boards plugged in. In fact, I'm not even sure which one is going to show up. I have my little camera switcher over there. That's a CircuitPython board, and I have this Feather. So let's see what comes up. If I type in, I'm going to print os.uname.machine. So this is a Feather RP2040. And I can also check which version of the operating system is on there, which version of CircuitPython in this case. So if I do print os.uname version, it's going to tell me I'm running 6.2.0 release candidate, and that was the version I downloaded on the 1st of April. We might also want to know what pins do I have at my disposal. For example, that QT Py RP2040 has 2 I2C channels on it. You might not know that looking at it. So if I import board, I've now imported the library for board pin definitions. I can now just simply type in board dot, and I'll hit tab for tab completion. And now I get a list of all the pins that are on this board. So I can see this one has A0 through 3, D, 0, 1, 10, 11, and so on. I2C is on here. I have a NeoPixel on board. We have the serial RxTX, SPI. So kind of an interesting way to find out info on your board without even having to go to a web page, as long as you remember these little commands. So that is your CircuitPython Parsec.
Okay, so again, don't forget. Thursday, JP, Parsec. Okay. Time travel, look around the world, makers, hackers, artists, engineers. So, I put out a call for, can we help? We wanted to send PPE to India makerspaces and hackerspaces. We've done a lot of work with, especially in the CircuitPython Python community in India. And one of the things that we found out is they actually don't need PPE. If they do, we can possibly get it to them. We will work with DHL and UPS because export for PPE in the US is really hard, going all the way back last year because the US didn't want people sending PPE out. So anyways, masks, face shields, you name it. If we can send it to India, we will. But we got a hold of our friends on the ground. They're okay, but it is a crisis. And they did send me some information. You can look at it on our blog. There is a fundraiser that they're trying to do for these oxygen generators that will condense. It's an oxygen concentrator. The problem really is like getting the stuff around. So
and you need a certain material to make the concentrator. It's like that material isn't available. It's like Zeniform or something. I don't remember the name of it. But.
So it's complicated, but what we did is we put links to the resources from the people that actually know because they're in India. And then we did a link to a Twitter thread that has people that are on the ground saying, here's how you can actually help. And the biggest challenge and the thing that will help the most is when the entire world gets vaccinated. And right now we have a long way to go. Even in the US, we have a long way to go. And then when you add the world, it could be years. And so one of the things that'll probably need to change is the vaccine nationalism. And I saw right on the news world, Stuart and Jennifer from Stuart's from Slack. I know him back from Flickr days.
Yeah.
Just did the biggest donation for worldwide vaccine help, so 25 million. So I think they just sold Slack to like Salesforce or something.
Yeah.
And Stuart's always been like a really good, kind soul. And this is, I think, the type of things that we need to start talking about and seeing is, even if we do an okay job in the U.S., as we've seen, the reason why the whole world got this is because the virus can hop on a plane at any time. So see what you could do. Check out our resources. We'll continue to do whatever we can do. We looked at the open source plans for this oxygen concentrator. It's $1,000 expensive, but we'll see if there's any like value that we could do as we look at these designs. If there's low cost microcontrollers that we can help add or something like that. So just like we did with ventilators. Also, upcoming events. Black in Robotics is doing a bunch of events. Adafruit, amongst others, are sponsors. So if you want to help get more people into robotics and take some classes or events, there's an Arduino one, Sunday, May 2nd, another one, May 16th, the ROS2 software workshop, May 30th, Arduino workshop, June 13th. You can build pretty much anything with all the stuff that they're doing. Check it out. Send it to people you know. We'll have more events.
Yes.
Next up. All right, so let me take you on a little bit of a journey.
Okay. Starts with the NeoPixel.
So the NeoPixel ring is used in lots of stuff. We don't know how people use it. They let us know. Sometimes we see it online. Sometimes the NeoPixel ring is used by science fiction designers, and this one happened to be in The Mandalorian. And so, if you watch The Mandalorian, there's a ship inside ILM creating the Razor Crest, and that was really cool for us to see.
Yeah.
And people told us about it. And so, one of the ways that we find out about stuff is people tell us, "Hey, I used your component in something."
That's right. Or I saw your component in something.
That doesn't mean that we support everything they do.
We probably didn't even know about it until after it was done.
I do not agree with all of the things that the Mandalorian does.
He kills people. He's a bounty hunter.
I do not agree with all the things that Yoda does. Baby Yoda ate a bunch of like baby eggs. Anyways,
You should have done that.
there's a lot of stuff that I don't agree
Naughty.
with. There's times that there's going to be actors that something happens in the news with them. We can't control what people do with our stuff. We do open source code. People might use our code for anything, and that's okay, anything. And we don't have any control over that. We don't. This isn't our show. So people know that we like posting this stuff. So here's a cool thing. One of our breakouts. This is a little temperature sensor.
Yes.
And by the way, does this transmit any radio frequencies,
It
Ladyada?
does not. All it does is measure temperature.
All it does is measure
But it does
temperature.
a very nice job of measuring
Okay.
temperature.
So there's this satellite. These folks in Italy launched it, and it used our temperature sensor. So now we're getting to the. It's not a rant because we have Phil rants, but it is a little bit. So we were feeling pretty good about this. We thought, hey, this is cool. Someone's using our stuff.
It's in space.
It's in space.
Like the Mandalorian's not real space.
Yeah.
It's like fake space. This is real space.
So we got what happens now. Someone on Twitter said, "Hey, Adafruit, how about not supporting space missions that are violating radio amateur frequencies and operating without coordination? Please don't enable abuse of radio amateur frequencies. Cheers." So I'm just like, who is this person? And we didn't do this. We didn't enable it. We're not supporting it. If they're abusing radio frequency stuff, please tell them. So this
Again, it's not a radio. It's a temperature
it's not
sensor.
even
It's
a
temperature.
radio. So I looked at it. I was actually a little surprised. So I think this is Pierce, is the executive director of Libre Space, which we know about, creating open source space technologies and communities. So this is where I'm going to ask a favor. And I'm going to send this to the folks there. This is the Libre Space Foundation.
They all have great arms.
If you want to go to space and you want people to go with you, and your mission is, and I'm going to zoom in on this, our vision is open, accessible outer space for all. Please don't blame us, Adafruit, for what this company or people did with our breakout board to measure temperature. And you have a lot of people who listen to what you say, and what was the end goal? Boycott Adafruit? And so I did update the post just to have this little piece of information, and I said, hey, please bring this up with Gauze SRL and Unistat 7. We only wrote about it because they emailed us and we thought it was cool. Adafruit did not launch anything in the space yet. And they have workshops, CubeSat Developers Workshop, working together, and this is an open source effort. So my request, and I did email with them. It did not go well because I don't think I could convey that support is like if we funded the mission,
We support
if we knew
things.
about us. Yeah,
Like we supported the Black and Robotics thing we just showed you because
Right, they have money.
We gave them
they have
money or in-kind money.
Yeah, they have Adafruit products and Adafruit gear.
I don't agree with a lot of things that Disney does.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't agree with a lot of their copyright decisions, but it's still cool that the Mandalorian had a NeoPixel ring in their set.
So the thing is, like, there's
If
going
our
to be...
hardware is in something, it doesn't mean that
Yeah.
we agree with it or condone it or enable it. It has nothing to do with it, okay? Like, it got used there.
Yeah,
If you have a problem with how our hardware is used, you need to talk to the people who use the hardware in the way you don't like.
Yeah, and so I don't want to not write about this stuff. I did put a link to the person's tweet, and their snark at us. And what I want to do is use this as a learning opportunity. So hey, all of us in open source, let's try not to do this, because if you want to go and have like more people in space with you, there's a bunch of guys. If you want people to go to space with you, potentially in a rocket, with just like a couple of people, they're going to be stuck with you, and you probably want to have a different vibe. And so, especially in open source, like you you don't want to go after open source companies that are making hardware and releasing code like we are. Like, we had nothing to do with this. In fact, it should be like, isn't it kind of cool that we are not the gatekeepers? So I don't know if this is Stargate keepers. I don't know what the term is.
Space police.
But they're like, we weren't consulted. They didn't tell us, they didn't do it the right way with coordination. That has nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
So I think they should do the right thing, whoever this group is in Italy. But please don't go after us.
And by the way, they don't agree. They think that they do right. By the way, it's up for debate, I guess. I don't know. I don't know.
So anyways, so we do space stuff. There's CircuitPython in space. Dr. Holliday was here, Doc Holliday, at Stanford, and they do CircuitPython stuff. CircuitPython is on this PyCube thing. And by the way, and this is kind of a little unfair. So every time we post anything about satellites, people say it's just trash. You're just polluting space. And so,
and again, I haven't put anything into space.
And so, yes, that might be an issue, but it's going to be really hard to inspire, especially young people. If you do anything involving space, there's going to be this guy tweeting at you and blaming you for stuff.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm going to send a link to this video segment to them, and maybe I've explained my case a little bit better.
Yes.
That I don't think this is a good example to set as a director of an open source organization. We can all do a little bit better. And I don't think going in the direction of not writing about stuff is something I want to do. Okay. Next up, Phil B has a video
It's
about
adorable.
crimping.
Crimpon.
Take it away.
Let's talk crimped pins for a moment. It's always been a little counterintuitive to me that crimping pins like this, like on these LED connectors, it's often preferable than a soldered pin connection. And that's weird because it's like solder. What could be better, right? You're like fusing metal. But it has to do with vibration and movement, that these connectors take a lot of flexing, and solder, being rigid, will quickly crack and you'll have a busted connection. But I think for many of us, self-included, the reason we hate crimped connectors is because our first impression was in using improvised tools, and these make really bad connections. And so we think the problem is crimping when the problem is the tool. You really want to use a proper crimping tool. Just like if you're going to solder, use a soldering iron. If you're going to crimp, you really want to invest in a crimping tool.
Okay.
Words of wisdom.
AdaBox.
Okay.
We're going to be shipping in May.
Really soon.
We're really close.
Really, really soon.
Mid-May, we're going to have the unboxing video. If you haven't already, please sign up because we're full. And then
Now is a great time to check that your address is correct, that you're
It's a good
billing
time to
in.
do that,
You
for
can
sure.
do this now because believe me, when we start charging the cards very, 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 very soon, like matter of days, not weeks, there's always people who don't check their cards, and it causes a little bit of a delay. You don't want that. Why have a delay? Don't you want it to get it as quickly as possible? So check your billing and your shipping right now, and then this box was delayed because of the planet, but next box we should be back on schedule.
And other thing, if you're in Europe, the UK in particular, don't forget we're ending AdaBoxes
subscriptions.
for now. New
Yeah.
subscriptions. We take care of any gift ones. We're putting on pause because with Brexit and the entire world changing, we have to figure out another way to ship things because the cost to ship it and then the import stuff is more than the cost of AdaBox. So we want to make sure, and some people want to pay that, but most people don't. So we want to make sure that's not what it is. Okay. Every single day around 6 o'clock, Colin's Lab Notes comes out.
Comes by your lab.
You can watch mini versions of what used to be called Colin's Lab every single day on all our social media platforms. I am going to play the latest 4 right now.
I've always had a thing for these Swiss machine pin header sockets. They're much shorter than common square pin male and female headers, so they make much lower profile connections. And breaking apart a strip of machine pin sockets is actually a clean process. Not that ham-fisted chopping thing you have to do when trimming regular headers, inevitably sacrificing one pin. Machine pins also get along well with breadboards. They don't tend to stretch out the internal springs like square pins. And they securely hold a through-hole component lead, at least the thin ones. They even make good IC sockets. In fact, I'm such a fan of these things that I actually made a machine pin breadboard at one point. And it works for the most part, as long as you use the right gauge jumper wire. Jeff suggested that I should go over some tips on how to keep a breadboard tidy. And I agree, it's a good idea. I personally don't get too fancy, I just focus on the jumper wires. Color coding always helps, black for ground, red for positive, but cutting custom length jumpers makes the biggest difference. I strip about 8mm from one end of a piece of solid core wire, insert it into the starting node, lay the wire down a path to its destination node, add an extra 15mm or so, cut, strip another 8mm lead, insert, done. Now, if I wanted to get really fancy, I could go pre-plan the whole layout in fritzing.
All right, and tune into Colin's lab every single day, Monday through Friday. Apparently, there might be some audio sync issues. We think it's a network thing because everything is working okay here. But
We don't know.
we shall proceed and continue.
Okay.
Make it a game.
Just live with it.
Yeah, so we have some Adafruit IO updates. We have a little mini video from Brent. This is, I believe, the Whippersnapper.
Whippersnapper analog input demo.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Brent from Adafruit, and I want to teach you today how to use Adafruit Whippersnapper, which is not out yet but will be soon, to create an IoT project without writing a single line of code. We have a Metro M4 wired up to a potentiometer, and I want to send this value over to the cloud. So it's already connected and online, so I'll click right through, and I'll click New Component. You can see we changed the components so they show 3D renders of all the components and what they do. So if we click potentiometer, it's connected to pin A0, and I want it to return the raw ADC value whenever I twist it, so on change. If I click create component, it immediately sends the component's data from the ADC to Adafruit Whippersnapper, and when I change it by twisting it, it returns the value back to Adafruit IO. And each component that you make in Adafruit Whippersnapper is an Adafruit IO feed, so you can plot the value in real time and historically. So if I twist it all the way down, or all the way up, all the way up. That's all for now. We're going to have more videos as Whippersnapper gets built out. Thanks for watching.
All right, help wanted Adafruit jobs board. We have a couple jobs: experience design specialist and a content intern. One is in Maryland, and the other one is in Canada. So check this out. It's jobs.adafruit.com, part-time one, and another is an internship. Python on hardware news.
It's Blinket time. All the latest in Python on hardware coming to you in your mailbox
Yeah.
and also here.
All right, so
Okay.
this week, let me go back here. I think I made a mistake with...
Well, we have so many exciting
There's
newsletters.
a
How
lot,
could you have
yeah.
any- All right. Number one, we are sponsoring PyCon US 2021. We sponsor every year, but we're also sponsoring this year.
Yeah.
It's online. You can go register. We also support the Python Software Foundation. Thanks, PyCon. They've been awesome. I can't wait to get back to visiting PyCon in person and doing hardware giveaways and stuff. We also had Moo 1.0 Beta 4 come out. We really want people to try it out. Please download the latest version of Moo because we've updated how CircuitPython boards are detected, and it's good. It means more boards will be detected even if they're not from Adafruit. So like any CircuitPython board should probably show up now. We have 200 boards. I don't know if you knew, Phil. We have 200 boards in CircuitPython.
More than 200 now.
More than 200.
true.
Making sure they all have the VIDs and PIDs. Turn into BMS. So we did another way.
All right, so deep dives as usual with Scott. You can check out the recaps there, a little bit of information, and also a link to the video. Subscribe if you want. Here's an animation demonstrating Adafruit Circuit Playground Express.
Oh.
This is kind of a neat thing. It's a little remote shutter. This is kind of cool. The Pico Touch PCB is designed to work with Raspberry Pi and Pico CircuitPython. Tabot, working on those. They look really good.
That's cool. Nice silk screen there.
Yeah,
More keyboards.
This is the Gherkin PCB built
Gherkin
specifically for the Raspberry Pi Pico, running CircuitPython
Keep.
from 40% keyboards. By the way, that is one of the best sites. And here's the thing: if you know the person at 40% keyboards, tell them two things. Number one, good job not having any way to contact you at all whatsoever.
They did such a good job hiding from the internet.
I can usually find anyone, and I'm just like, wow.
This person is
So-
gone, which means they don't want to be contacted.
Yeah, so anyways, because I wanted to say, hey, good job, good work, but there's no way to get a hold of them. So anyways, no way to comment, no way to do anything. So good work. Here's more
keyboard stuff.
keyboards. We have a really
Paintinator.
neat, Paintinator. This is a pen plotter for folks with particular disabilities using CircuitPython.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, here's a mouse shake, your Raspberry Pi and Neo Trinkey project. Here is a very, 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 very cool display that uses CircuitPython that goes to the Marvel API and pulls out the character and the issue stuff, which is really neat.
Yeah, I know they had an API.
Based
they
on
have
the
a big
tech.
API.
Yeah, and it's based on the tech from Black Panther, which is really cool. Little cute Featherbot, you can use CircuitPython with it, and a
Pico,
whole
keyboards,
bunch
mag
more.
tags, and
So
more.
special thanks to Katney, who is running a newsletter while Ann was out. Ann is back, and so you'll see the newsletter. No one noticed the differences between different authors. We just had a bunch of stuff and a good pipeline of news. So that is this week's Python on Hardware.
Yay, Blinka.
Yeah, JP is like, oh, you can contact the 40%
You think
keyboards
so?
people on Reddit.
No, you can't.
I tried.
You
Yeah,
tried.
it just goes to nowhere.
Yeah,
Okay, so Ladyada, we have 2,468 guides.
Yeah, we have a lot of guides.
What is in the Adafruit learning system? this
Okay,
week?
I'm glad you cut it out because it's true. There's 6 guides this week. From Known Pedro, they have the Lemon Mechanical Keypad. This is so cute. It's a 6-key macro pad with a citrusy scent. It can be a lemon, it can be a lime, it can be an orange, it can be a grapefruit, whatever you like. We saw like a pizza-themed keypad. It was like, let's do a lemon. So they did a great job. It's an RP2040 Cutie Pie and a NeoPixel inside, and mechanical Cherry MX compatible switches. We also have a couple guides for the Adafruit Funhouse. Thanks to Melissa for writing those up. Melissa's done a great job at making all the portal libraries, like anything that's Wi-Fi enabled. She's been doing the library that helps run it and making sure that it works with Adafruit IO and MQTT and Home Assistant. So she did a guide for the Funhouse as well as a guide on how to use the CircuitPython library that she wrote for the Funhouse to make really easy home automation projects. Liz Clark did a Neo Trinkey project. It's a Zoom shortcut tool, so using the capacitive touch buttons to have different things happen on your computer. It's kind of fun, just sits there and also has NeoPixel feedback. Erin made a gorgeous sunflower themed sound reactive baby crib mobile using a Circuit Playground Bluefruit. We have a little video we'll show shortly. And then JP also joined in the Funhouse fun with a motion detecting light project. It uses a PIR sensor plugged into the Funhouse and then can send commands to Wi-Fi light bulbs called Lifix bulbs. And of course, you could also adapt this. We also have a library for use with Philips Hue bulbs, so if you want to use those instead. But kind of showing how you can connect sensors on the edge to control stuff around your house.
Okay. The big change, update, cool thing we did with learn.adafruit.com is we have a project bundler. So one of the things I used to do is I would gather all my CircuitPython libraries, everything, and I would put it in a folder and zip it and just say, okay, that's the perfect way. Everything works. It's all the dependencies are done. All the libraries are there. But now we've made that process of needing to do that
So much easier.
obsolete.
Thanks to our little friends.
Yeah, and so if you want to gather up all your Python files,
Like, let's see, look at the yes, all the files, all the libraries, all the assets.
use Bundlefly.
Yay!
That's right, Bundlefly is here. Bundlefly will help
Little
you.
bee.
Hi, I'm here to bring you your files with Bundlefly. Now, this isn't the grotesque version that I initially was going to
No.
have. That
So cute.
the files are thrown up on and they're consumed into
Digested
Bundlefly,
into a zip file.
and then they're brought over, and then Bundlefly feeds it to you through a feeding tube.
Yeah.
We decided that this is a little cuter.
Well, we had a meeting and we all discussed it and
Yes.
and we what was it like they have in like marketing, they have like a focus group.
Yeah.
We focus grouped it and they didn't agree, but they did like this adorable kind of like 1980s
That's right.
mod rocker style with cute sneakers fly. Great sunglasses.
Okay. And so next up, we're going to play Aaron's video from Aaron's Learn Guide. Okay, 3D printing. We have Don Pedro's video coming up next week, which is the lemon lime thing. I thought it was a speed up. I forgot earlier when I was on show and tell, but we do have a speed up this week. Apparently, there's a crabification of things, like
Carsification.
yeah, on a long enough like timeline of things, everything turns into like a crab.
They want to
thing.
be crabs, multiple times.
They want to be crabs, like
I want to be a crab.
yeah. And so someone showed pictures of like Wi-Fi routers, and the latest one, like the evolution of them over time.
Well, the Realtek logo
and now
is a crab.
and now they look like crabs.
Yeah, oh, it's true. They do. They have the little thing. Yeah. you're
Yeah.
right.
So anyhow, the aliens are here. They're crabs.
Crabs.
Okay, don't forget 3D Hangouts and Don Pedro every single Wednesday. Learn how to make all this stuff and more. DigiKey and Adafruit present INMPI. This week, Ladyada is from Bosch.
That's right. I'm excited because I actually heard about this sensor a while ago, the BME688, but it's finally in stock at DigiKey. And I don't really want to do an INMPI unless you could actually go and pick it up, and they have a lot in stock. So this week's INMPI is from Bosch Sensor Tech. They make all sorts of sensors, including some of our favorites, the BMP280, BME280, and of course the BME680, a lot of very popular sensors. So this week's is the BME688. You can see here it's got the 688. Sounds familiar, right? Sounds a lot like the BME680. That's because it's very similar to the BME680. The BME680 is, I think the B is for Bosch and E is environmental, and the 680 stands for it has pressure, humidity, temperature, and gas sensing capability. So this is a sensor that we've already stocked, the BME680, and the 88, or the 688, is the next generation of it. And what's really cool about the sensor, the 680, is that it's like the only sensor we've ever seen that can do pretty much all of your environmental sensing in one package at a really good price. It does temperature, yes. It does humidity, yes. Barometric pressure, so you can do altitude as well, and gas sensing, so you can do environmental sensing of volatile organic compounds, so like air quality sensing as well. So what's new with the 688? Well, the 680, I'm glad you asked, because I also was like, what is new? So when you've got, the way the gas sensor works, it's called a metal oxide semiconductor, and basically there's an exposed oxide layer that reacts with gases in the environment, like you can have it react with methane or alcohols or there's carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide, whatever. And when it reacts with them, the resistance of that oxide layer changes. And the thing about oxide sensors is this is pretty much the only way that we do solid state sensing. It works quite well. It's inexpensive, but there are some variations from sensor to sensor. And not only that, but temperature and humidity affect them. So you having the temperature and humidity sensor in the BME680 is handy because you'll actually use the data to normalize the gas sensor data. But I think what the folks at Bosch realize is that anytime you have something that's dependent on another environmental factor, you might be able to kind of use that or abuse that in a different way. So in this case, the BME688 has this heater underneath that heats the metal oxide layer, and what that can do is first, of course, get any water condensation off of it, but can also change the reactivity of that metal oxide layer so it reacts differently to gases. And by changing the heater profile, by changing the heat level quickly between multiple different levels and doing different measurements, you can kind of sense different things. And maybe not like a specific, it's not like, oh, this heater profile is good for methane and this heater profile is good for, ethanol. It's more like if you go through these cycles and you try to measure a scent or an emission, you might be able to detect it from other emissions. So let's talk about what that means. So each BME sensor has the heater profile and the duty cycle. Like I mentioned, the heater profile and duty cycle is that microheater that when you turn on and off, it's set to different settings. It affects the sensitivity and reactability of that metal oxide layer. You can try multiple different profiles and then expose the sensor to what you want to sense and collect data. And again, what are you actually sensing? It's kind of not clear, but by looking for patterns of data, you can then train an algorithm, like a machine learning algorithm, to look at those changes based on the heater profile to detect differences or unique scents. So to do that, they recommend going with their dev kit. This dev kit's not available quite yet, but it'll probably be available soon on DigiKey. It has Adafruit stuff in it. It has a Huzzah 32 and ESP32, and then on top it has a feather wing with 8 BME 688. So it's a bit of a kit. It's also got 2 buttons, and it's got an SD card slot as well. And the reason it has 8 of these, you're like, why do you need 8? Do you need 8 for your final thing? No. The reason you have 8 is you can have each one have a different heater profile. You can also have each one, just because each mock sensor is a little bit different in general, so you can have 8 different data samples, so you can make sure that you're not being too specific with your training data. You want to have multiple data points to because again, there's this variation from sensor to sensor. But you program it with the code that Bosch gives you. There's an example that you load onto the ESP32. And then in their video, for example, you can put it in some espresso beans and you take 30 minutes worth of data. You can put it in filter coffee beans and take 30 minutes of data. And you can, of course, leave it on the table, not exposed to any coffee, and take data. And then the dev kit saves that data to an SD card, which you then pop into your computer and load into the AI Studio from Bosch, which is a software that runs on Windows that takes that particular data file, and here you open it, and then will plot the data So here you can see the plot. So you can see, you're like, well, what's the purple, red, blue? So those are different. There's kind of, actually, if you look at the bottom, there's actually kind of like red, yellow, green. There's a couple different colors. And the top one also has 2 traces. So these are the 8 different sensors. And you see that they all kind of follow along each other, although there's this DC offset. And the DC offset, I think it's just because there's variation from sensor to sensor. Or it could be that they have a heater profile. Wasn't actually sure by watching or reading the demonstration of why there's variations, but I do know that mock sensors do have some. So it could be that this is just, each sensor has enough DC offset. However, if you look at the patterns, you can kind of see the 4 different sections, right? There's the beginning sensor section where it kind of heats up, and then it's exposed to the espresso coffee, and you can see the data drops a little bit, right? There's a little bit of a dip in the cycles. You can see that the heater profile cycles. And then in the third one, it's a different thing. It's exposed to, it rises up a little bit. And then the fourth one, they all drop again. So there's this, you can definitely see that there's change in the sensors between those 4. But if you were trying to program this as a programmer, it would be really annoying and frustrating because there's so much little variation. How do you detect it? This is where machine learning comes in. So what you do is, for those first 4 sections, you see here, the first one is normal air, then espresso, and then another normal air, and then filter coffee. You can take as many data samples as you want. This one has 4. You label them, and then the software, you tell it, what do you want to train, the 2 classes, and you say, look for the coffee class A, espresso or filter, and then the normal air, you put the other 2 measurements, and you say, I want you to train on that data so that you can determine whether or not I'm being exposed to coffee. I can sense coffee. And again, it's not hard to make one sensor detect coffee or not. The problem is if you have a product and each sensor is a little bit different, how can you make an algorithm that is generalizable enough that it won't be specific to that brand of coffee and that particular sensor and that particular humidity? And that's what the training does. That's why you want to use machine learning. Does the training, and it pops out a file, and then you can of course try different heat air profiles, etc. You can also analyze it. It'll tell you, based statistically on the model and data that you have, how good is it at detecting. In this case, it's 93% accurate, which is excellent. If you're not getting the accuracy you want, of course you can take more data and then train against that data or test against that data. Try different heater profiles. So they sort of say, look, tweak the numbers a little bit until you're able to really get detectable differences. And then what you do is you load the BSEC library, the environmental sensing library from Bosch. It's a precompiled binary blob, but they do, as you see here, have lots of different platforms, from the Mega AVRs to Cortex M0s and M3s and M4s and Espressif chips, 32s and A266s. If there's a chip that you want to use that's missing here, like maybe a RISC-V chip, tell Bosch. They're very responsive, and they'll probably compile for you the binary needed. It is, a trade secret of theirs, so they don't release the source code of actually how they do the training analysis. But you can at least, get that blob, and then you compile it in. You feed that BSEC file that's generated by the training software. It's small. It fits onto your microcontroller. And now your BME688 in the field can be used to detect different senses and objects. So,
All right.
Very neat, because
Available on DigiKey.
it's available on DigiKey. Starting to see more machine learning and AI make its way to sensors. You remember we had the audio sensor that did wake word detection on its own. We've had a couple of motion sensors from ST that could do a basic machine learning as well. So we're starting to see more smarts get to sensors. And I think this is a good example of a sensor that has variation. So it's very hard for humans to program it, but it's very, the patterns are reliable enough that you can train, basic machine learning or neural networks on and get good data. So it is in stock. It's backwards compatible with the BME680. So even if you don't use the AI stuff, it's still an excellent sensor for temperature, humidity, barometric pressure, and gas sensing use cases.
We have a video.
Bosch SensorTech introduces the BME688 gas sensor together with the BME AI Studio, a data-driven software tool to explore, validate, and deploy sensor use cases with the power of machine learning. And it all begins with our new sensing hardware, the BME688, the first environmental sensor with AI. It digitizes temperature, pressure, humidity, and gas data. And by using machine learning algorithms, the BME688 is able to measure and recognize the unique fingerprint of different gas mixtures. Here's an example. Do you like coffee? Let's use the sensor to distinguish various types of coffee. Just measure the smells of different coffee beans with the BME board X8. Then launch BME AI Studio and easily import and label the recorded data. You can then use this data to create an individual algorithm custom tailored just for your use case. That was just one example. BME688 enables a vast range of new use cases. And you don't have to be a trained computer scientist or neural net expert. BME AI Studio is designed with great user experience and comprehensive documentation to help guide and accompany you while developing your customized algorithm. Bosch is continuing to push AI forward, and with the BME AI Studio, our customers can now bring sensor AI into their own products.
Right.
And also, there's a shuttle board available from DigiKey if you search for BME688. It's very nice because it has the sensor on the board with breakouts and capacitors. And there's a pinout available. It is set up for I2C or SPI. And we just pushed update to our Adafruit Arduino BME688 library, or 680 library, to work with the 688. It uses the latest version of the Bosch API code for Arduino.
Okay. And that is? All right, before we go to new products,
Yes.
if you are using a load kit from Adafruit and doing the cool projects and more that you could see on lobe.ai or learn.adafruit.com, please let us know. Some of the things that people can make are the rock, paper, scissor ML thing, the build a ML package detector, machine learning 101, to learn about it, and then making a freezer monitor. If you're doing stuff, let us know because we want to spotlight some of the cool projects and more. We have some lined up, but I want to know what you're up to. Okay, it is time.
New.
Okay, so first up,
we have a revision for e-ink displays. You'll see, we're going to be doing revisions every week or two because in the industry, certain chipsets are discontinued. They're replaced with other chipsets. So this is the 2.13-inch e-ink monochrome Featherwing. It was using an SSD 1675 chipset. It is now using an SSD 1680 chipset. What's the difference? Not much, really. It actually pretty much acts the same. I think it's maybe a little bit faster. The display looks the same. It's the same resolution. However, it is a different chipset, and so you'll have to update your code. Our library supports both, so you'll just have to change it from SSD 1675 when you include the header file to 1680. Otherwise, it'll work just fine. All right, next up, we've got some more Molex Pico Blade cables, compatible cables. These are 1.25 millimeter pitch cables. This is a 2-pin cable, and you can see it's got 2 connectors, one on each end, and they're symmetric. So it's like if you connect one end around, they're the same on both ends. Pin 1 connects to pin 1 on the other one. We also have other sizes. We have 3-pin, we have 4-pin, 5-pin, 6-pin, 7-pin, 8-pin, 9-pin, I think 10-pin. We've got a lot of pins. Each one has on the end a 1.25 millimeter Molex Pico Blade compatible pitch. This is great when you don't need to carry amps. It's good for maybe a half an amp or so. They're not terribly long. They're about 20 centimeters, but they're very compact. Like you can get a lot of pins in a small connector, but you could still kind of hand solder the connectors, SMT or through hole onto your PCB. We see Pico Blade compatible cables a lot. They're very cute. So maybe I'll show one on the overhead real fast. So this one is the 7-pin. So it's just demonstrative again. They're all going to be the same except for more pins. This one you can see black is pin 1, so it goes black, red, white, yellow, green, blue, and then the same over here. So you can flip these back and forth, rotate them, whatever, and they're the same cable on both sides. And then we've got the 4-pin one. So pick whichever one you like. Of course, you can cut these in half and have 2 pigtails if you like, but it is kind of nice to have 2 cables, 2-ended cables. We've used Pico blades quite a bit. We use them for our speakers when a JST, SH even or a PH is too big, and we like the compactness of the of the Molex Pico blades. So we've seen these in robotics, and drones use these a lot as well.
Okay, next up.
Okay, so we've got an update to a very popular board, which you might find familiar. It's the MCP 9808, which we are going to still stock in the original version.
Which has been terrorizing space, apparently.
We have it now in STEMMA QT format. This is one of the few boards in which we're going to actually carry both versions, both the STEMMA QT and non-STEMMA QT, because a lot of people were using the previous one. I had all the address pins broken out, and so I was like, well, I think it's worth it to carry both for a bit, and then we'll see if people really want to just move from one to the other. I think we also have a demo. Is this the current product or the next one? Oh, it's the next one. Sorry.
Next
Sorry,
product.
Next product is, it looks so similar. It's the HTU 31, which we showed on a previous INMPI. I don't know if you remember. This is from TE. And they have made wonderful sensors. The HTU 21D is a very common temperature and humidity sensor. This one's great too. It's got the same 2% relative humidity, accuracy. This one has much...
Oh, is this the star of the show?
This is the star of the show.
Oh, the star of the show tonight, besides you, Ladyada, and our entire team, is this.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Because it looks so similar.
Yeah.
So this one's got great temperature accuracy. It's 0.2 degrees C plus or minus, and I've got a little demo to show it off here. We've got Arduino and CircuitPython code for this. Hold on. Oh, this is very, very zoomed in. Okay, so I've got it here on my Feather. It's got the STEMMA QT connector for quick plugging in to my Feather board. I've got an OLED just showing off this demo. For this version, one of the things I did is you can see I have a little cutout. That gives it a little bit of thermal isolation, so if you are using it in with a couple other boards that's nearby, the heating of those boards won't affect the sensor as much. That said, what's nice is that this runs from 2 to 5 volts on its own, so there's no regulator on this board, just needs a couple pull-ups and capacitors. It's got a reset pin, which I like, a hardware reset pin. I always like that. You can always get the sensor into a good state if it gets confused. It's got an address pin, so you can have 2 of these on one I2C bus, address 40 or 41 hex. The data that comes out of it has CRC, so you can make sure, a lot of sensors, they don't give you CRC data. The data you read is data you read. If you're in a high noise environment, or maybe you don't trust that maybe the data you're getting hasn't been tampered with, or has noise or some other feedback or something that is causing it to add or drop a bit. The CRC means you can make sure that the data you're getting is correct. And it's also got a little self-heater, so you can use that to burn off any condensation, especially when you get to high humidity, or if there's wetness that splashes on it, you can kind of evaporate that off and then get true gas humidity sensing. So this is quite good. I mean, it's a little warm because it's been sitting under these lights, but the humidity is pretty accurate. And then when I hold it, you can see it reacts very quickly as well. So it's a very quick to react sensor. People really like the TE HTU 21. So if you did, you'll like this. It's basically the same price or less, and even more accurate.
That's the products.
New.
Okay, we're gonna do top secret.
Okay.
Folks can line up questions in the chats, but we're going to do this right now. Here's the first one. We're going to play them back to back. It is the U2IF, and then the Shao Stemma stuff.
Yeah.
CircuitPython stuff.
Yes.
Okay, Ladyada, what is this?
This is kind of fun. I'm attached a whole bunch of hardware to this Raspberry Pi Pico, and I'm playing with it. I've got a potentiometer knob, and as I twist it, this LED gets dimmer and brighter. And then I've also got this proximity sensor, and as I move my hand back and forth, you can see the NeoPixel strip or dot star strip increasing and decreasing. But what's interesting about this code is it's actually not running on the Pico. This is actually written in CPython. We're trying out for Pico U2IF. This is actually firmware running on the Pico, and the code that's being run, the CircuitPython code, is actually on my Windows computer. So this is actually in CPython. I'm running it, and it's communicating over HID to the RP2040 to execute all that hardware commands. This is kind of like all-in-one CircuitPython for CPython.
Ladyada, what is this?
We saw this Seed Shao expansion board, and it was advertised on Amazon as being designed for CircuitPython. So I thought, let's pick one up and then try it out with CircuitPython.
Marketing works.
But I'm trying it with the RP2040 QT Py, which has a lot more memory and flash and capabilities than the Shao or even the original SAMD21 QT Py. So this is actually perfect for use here. You get a 128x64 OLED, and you can see the display I/O. It's got a battery, and we plugged in one of our batteries. Works great. There's a beeper, and I press the button, just testing it out. It beeps. There's an on-off switch for the battery, and you can tell it's charging. There's also an SD card on the bottom, and when I press the reset button, you can see it display all the files on the SD card. So that works too.
That's top secret.
Get out of the vault. Get back in the vault.
Okay, we're
Time for
going
some
to
questions.
answer your questions.
Let's do it.
We want you to put them in Discord, adafruit.it/discord, and we're going to answer them. We're going to see if the syncing stuff changed, but either way, you'll be able to figure out what we're doing.
Sorry, man.
Yeah. All right. So,
Okay.
what is that plus shape plug? A combo Lightning plus USB plus micro B?
Oh yeah, this is Phil's cable.
Yeah.
Just handing shit on the overhead. I don't know where you got this from. I think it was a giveaway or something.
Yeah, it just had all of it on
Yeah,
there.
kind of nice because I can test. It's USB-C.
Yeah.
Oh,
I couldn't find one to source. This was just kind of a weird one-off. I think no one wanted it.
It was given to
Yeah.
you or something. I think. Yeah,
Okay.
It's handy.
Next up, let's go back to the questions. Are you sending your products around the world? Yeah.
Yes.
Except for restricted locations where
Of
we
course.
can't, we do.
Yes.
Hello, have you worked with any of the OmniVision camera modules OV5640, OV5642? Will Adafruit be willing to carry some of those modules in your shop?
Yeah, we made a breakout for the OV2640. I think we showed it on the last show or something. We're adding video, camera input to CircuitPython and Arduino. It's definitely like a challenge that like nobody's done, so it's taking us a little time, but we're hoping to carry like good quality cameras, if that makes sense. Hopefully we'll have some good cameras that are easy to use and you can use to get image data out of.
Okay. Next up, a bundle process like the code bundle to gather all of the parts for the shopping cart for a project to learn guide would be cool. Actually, make sure you expand the window all the way out if you're on a desktop computer, and you could see all the products, and you could say add all to cart or add all to wish list.
That's right.
But if you have a mobile screen, you don't have that, and if you
Yeah.
have a smaller screen, but you
Also,
can.
some people have some parts with variations.
Yeah, but you
so
can do it.
We can do it.
Next up, could the U2IF detect if certain programs' windows are active on the PC?
Yes, because you're running it on CPython, so you would just use.
Yeah.
There's definitely like Python
There's
programs.
there's bridgey stuff that'll let you.
Well, you just use something that's like list all applications.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you could definitely like that is available to you on Python, and then you would send whatever you wanted to have happen. Like let's say whenever you opened up, Photoshop, you want a motor to move, or whenever you close your email, you want like a bell to ring. You could do that in Python, and then have the U2IF or Blinka basically control a servo or LEDs or a buzzer on the Pico.
And I'll just combine some stuff. U2IF is not for Mata, correct?
It's not for Mata, and that's the best thing about it.
Someone said a funny joke. Someone says, "Oh, I have a problem." Oh, use for Mata. Now they have two problems.
Absolutely. Believe me, I agree. I actually had to deal with the Fermata thing this weekend, and I'm not looking forward to it.
I'm thinking of building a robot with the Raspberry Pi Zero. Do you have any tips? You go, lady. I have a tip, but I might have a different tip than you.
My tip is actually to start with a Raspberry Pi 4 because you'll want to have like all the USB and Ethernet to make it easy for you to like log in and to debug it. Also, by the way, robotics is a very kind of a self-destructive hobby. Don't be surprised if you destroy your Raspberry Pi. So get a couple extra. Like really,
gonna say something a little different.
What
I
is
think if you're gonna build a robot, start with a microbit or a Circuit Playground Express or a Feather, and use something like the Cricket because it'll give you the results faster of controlling things and doing robotics than booting up a Linux system and then doing a lot of other
Yeah.
stuff. I would just start with that and see if you still like doing robotics. Make it easy for yourself first, and then make it harder later.
It's not fun. It's not a fun.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Oh, here's a good business question, and kind of ties into things that we were talking about tonight. Can Adafruit modules be used in commercial products?
They do.
Yes. And do you know why? Because it's open source, and so that means if it's open source, like our temperature sensor, you can put it in a commercial product. You can also put it in a satellite and put it out in space, but we can't stop
And
you.
I
We don't
can't
know
stop
about
you.
it. We don't
Yeah.
know.
Do whatever you want.
We'll not do whatever you want. Do the right thing, but
Well,
we can't.
yes.
But we can't stop you.
I can't make you do the right thing.
And
I can guilt trip you to do the right
and
thing.
if you do something crummy with our products, it's not our fault.
That's right.
You have to look inward.
Mm.
It's not the product that's crummy.
It's you.
It's maybe something that you're doing, but it also goes the other way. If you do something really good, we can't take credit for it either.
That's right.
It's all on you.
Wow.
All right.
Individuality.
Yeah. Okay. People like the ability to control IO using CPython.
I think so too. That's why I love
cool.
Blinka.
All right. If you're doing camera, does that mean you'll be adding machine learning to CircuitPython?
Well, we want to see what makes sense, but we're going to start with just basically being able to take photos.
Okay. I'm gonna look and see if there's anything else.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
I think that is everything. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Special thanks to Takara running these things behind
Thank
the
you,
scenes.
Takara.
Special thanks to everyone on our team, all of our customers, all of our community, and more, and our entire team. And special thanks to everyone. I was in interviews, interviewing folks. Thank you, team, who's helping out with that. We're hiring folks. We're very much looking forward to getting back to where we want to be, leave the bad stuff behind, rebuild in a new, cool way. We'll see everybody next week, 8 p.m., Ask an Engineer.
Disc Lady this Sunday.
Yep.
We'll do little videos here and there. Do hit Colin's Lab every day around 6 p.m.
Yep.
Got JP's workshop tomorrow. Got Scott's Deep Dive on Friday. Every day there's something to do. You're never
Okay.
alone.
We'll see everybody later. Here's your moment of Zener.
Bye.